Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Live at the Waterhole on this wonderful Tuesday morning. We're starting today at Sirondela in Bush. My name is Johan Herbst, and I'll be your presenter for today. Just a quick reminder that this is a live and interactive experience. We love to hear from you, so send your comments or questions through our app or website. The details are displayed on the screen below. So today's theme is about you, the viewer. I want to know where your love for nature began, who or what first sparked your passion for the natural world. I'm curious to learn more about you. So please share your comments so we can start the discussion. So it looks like we've got a lovely herd of buffalo here at Sirondela, and then also a lone hippo just chilling in the water over there. And you can see the ones that aren't in the water, those buffalo, are just relaxing under some shade over there in the background. Not often that we see buffalo on the show, so it's quite, or at least I haven't seen that many on the show, so it's quite a nice treat to see a big herd like this. And that hippo there on the left is, okay, so he's moving a little bit. Flicking those ears, trying to get rid of all the flies and other irritating insects that love to frequent the hippo's face. So Penelope Kenyon is saying, hello Wild Earth and everyone at Live at the Waterhole. We have jumped into summer here in KwaZulu-Natal on the northern coast, hot and humid already. So thanks for the comment there, Penelope. It's definitely a very warm day at most of our locations. Unfortunately, it's still a bit chilly and a bit wet over here in Cape Town, where I'm presenting from. So it's nice that it's much lovelier weather there where you are. And I see at most of the locations it's in the high 30s, so very hot day indeed in most of southern Africa, at least, and a bit of East Africa. So Jeanette Keane is saying, grand hello all the way from Perth, Australia. Good afternoon, Johan. Currently 5 p.m. in Perth. My passion came from safari. Thanks for the comment, Jeanette. I'm glad to hear that your passion came from safari. My passion came from my grandfather. He was an avid conservationist and naturalist, although his profession was in law. He was a professor in law, and he just loved to take us camping and anywhere outdoors, just to show us the magic of wildlife and the outdoors. And I'm very grateful, forever indebted to him for igniting the passion for the natural world in me. So Shelley says, my love for the bush comes from watching Wild Earth. So thanks for that, Shelley. It really is a blessing and it's a privilege to be able to see all this spectacular wildlife while you're sitting in the comfort of your home, I'm assuming. So thanks for the comment, Shelley. So Anya Dutton says, hello all the way from Poland, beginning of autumn this side. Lovely to see this nature during the office day. Being brought up in South Africa, entrenched love for nature. Have a great day, Johan. Thank you very much, Anya. I really appreciate the comment. Lovely of you to join us today, all the way from Poland. So unfortunately, there in the Northern Hemisphere, it's getting a bit chillier now, while it's warming up here in the Southern Hemisphere. So that's why these buffalo are making the most of the waterhole today, ensuring they stay nice and cool and don't overheat. So in Hoedspruit, I was having a look earlier at the weather, and so it's a high of 37 degrees Celsius in Hoedspruit, close to Bush. And so you can imagine that it would be a lovely day for a nice swim in the waterhole. So Melinda from Randburg says, my passion started when we went to the Kruger as children with our parents. Wild Earth started a whole new passion during lockdown. Then I took my kids to Elephant Plains in 2021, which was an absolute highlight in all our lives. Thank you very much for sharing that, Melinda. We also used to frequent the Kruger National Park as kids, and we're so blessed to have it right on our doorsteps. I grew up actually in Pretoria, and we would often go in the July holidays, the school holidays, to the Lowveld, and sometimes we would go to the Kruger from my grandfather had a small plot of land close to Zanin, and we would often just go there and forget about all the stresses of the city and work and school and everything, and just enjoy each other's company and enjoy what the natural world has to offer. So Dalen is saying, such an awesome place to have some animals. It's definitely Thorny Bush is very lucky. There's some magnificent sightings there at Serondella, one of the prime destinations to go on safari if you're ever in the Hoedspruit area. So Ansi Russell says, it's cold and windy there by them in Hartenbos. Also a lovely spot when it's nice and sunny, Hartenbos. We'd also, in our summer holidays, we would go close to Hartenbos, and so it's lovely to hear you tuning in from Hartenbos, Ansi. I'm sorry that the weather conditions are not ideal, but perhaps a good reason to go visit the Lowveld or the Kruger National Park, where it's nice and sunny and just nice and toasty. And Julius Miller over here says, from Strandfontein in Cape Town, I was always an outdoor person. My love for wildlife comes from watching safari wildlife. Thank you, Julius. I appreciate the comment from Strandfontein. And it's just lovely to be outdoors. Why wouldn't you want to be when we're so blessed in South Africa, especially in Cape Town, to have such magnificent wildlife on our doorstep? So yeah, we're tuning in to Oldonyo now in southeast Kenya. Can't see Kilimanjaro today, but we've got some lovely wildlife in front of us. We've got some elephants relaxing under the tree there to our right. We've got some zebra in the middle, and the giraffe busy ruminating, busy chewing the cud. Because there are ruminants like cows and buffalo, where they've got the four-chambered stomach, and so they chew their food into a very fine bolus, very fine ball of food, and then they swallow it, and then it enters a pouch called the rumen, or stomach, and then it slowly ferments over there and digests a little bit more, and then it passes through eventually to the next stomach pouch. So a very efficient way of digesting your food.
Let's go and take a look. See you out there.
Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh! Whoa! This is action-packed. My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. I grew up mostly here in the Lowveld. I grew up here pretty much on the southern side of Kruger National Park, a place called Marloth Park, for most of my years. Something surprising about myself, I did play drums in a band for many years. Best sighting I presented, we found Palumba and the two cubs, and the cubs are just way big.
Ah, the bush, full of beauty, wonder, and absolute chaos. And now, all that madness has its own show. It's called a Wild Bush Week. The countdown of the most outrageous, heart-stopping, and sometimes downright ridiculous wildlife moments of the week. Lions throwing their weight around. Hyenas gate-crashing the buffet. Leopards doing, well, leopardy things. Each week, it's a fresh reel of safari gold. A mix of drama,
She's just got an impala, everybody.
danger, and a healthy dose of laughter. So, if you fancy a highlight show with bite, and I don't mean just the animals, tune in to a Wild Bush Week. You bring the tea, and we'll bring the tusks, tails, and teeth.
And Lotte Huss, and shows like Animal Magic and Daktari. So, to Disco's Dave, I also grew up on some programs. I can't say that I watched those programs that you mentioned, but I used to watch programs with Steve Irwin and lots of different programs on National Geographic and Discovery. Particularly enjoyed a program by Austin Stevens, who actually comes from South Africa, and he was like a snake wrangler and also a naturalist that loved doing extreme things, but that ignited a passion in me as well, especially for reptiles. So if we look at that giraffe, maybe we'll see the bolus sliding down its neck, that ball of vegetation that it's chewing on now. It's so interesting to see how, like a tennis ball that gets swallowed and then it gets regurgitated again to chew on further. And of course we have a giraffe in front here doing some yoga for us. Downward dog. So I think let's see what's happening at some of our other destinations. Let's see what's happening at Wangi. Maybe there's some more activity there. Okay, so we're at the hide at Wangi National Park in Zimbabwe, where we have plenty of elephant. You see there's a little elephant struggling over there up the little hill to the left. Still figuring out how to use those limbs of the body. It's just lovely to see them enjoying the mud and the dust and the water, getting a nice thick layer of mud on their skins to protect them from that very hot African sun. So it's a very delicious 36 degrees Celsius in Wangi at the moment. So you can imagine why they're making the most of that mud bath at the moment. So Jan Mello is saying, love watching Wild Earth from Massachusetts in the USA. Thank you, Jan, for your comment. We love that you're here with us and that you're tuning in from so far away. It's a real privilege to be able to watch this live content from Africa all the way from Zimbabwe. So it's great to have you with us, Jan. Thank you. So Spas Yankov says, hello, Johan. Great to begin with eland and giraffes at Oldonyo. Hope I didn't miss too much. So Spas, you didn't miss much at all. Just some, as you say, some eland, some giraffe, and some elephants at the waterhole there in Oldonyo. And lo and behold, some more elephants. Of course, they enjoy frequenting waterholes at this time of day because of the heat of the day. So when you tune into this program, it's between the hottest hours of the day. So then the elephants would definitely be enjoying a nice bath in the waterhole. So Brian says, I fell in love with wildlife as a teen watching 50/50. It sparked my passion and made the wild come alive on screen. So 50/50 is a program that was broadcast by the SABC, so a wildlife program, and I didn't watch it much growing up, but I have heard of it and I watched a couple of episodes, but I believe it was a very informative program. Always some very interesting wildlife topics in that on there. So thanks for sharing, Brian. Okay, so we're back at Sirondela at Thorny Bush. You can see this buffalo in the front to the bottom of our screens, just going a little bit deeper into the water hole as the shallower waters probably disturbed a lot of mud and sediment floating around. So he just wants to get some fresh water a bit closer to the middle of the waterhole. So Spas Yankov is asking if I've ever been to Wangi before and what the elephant population is like over there. So I've never actually been to Zimbabwe before, unfortunately. I would love to go. I would love to visit Mana Pools and Lake Kariba and all those wonderful places in Zimbabwe, and Wangi, of course. I'm not too sure what the elephant population is there in Wangi, but I'd imagine it's quite a large population, as Zimbabwe has one of the largest African elephant populations in the world. So I believe Botswana has the largest population, but I think Zimbabwe is definitely up there with some of the biggest populations. So Michelle M is saying, greetings all from Durban. My parents were lovers of the outdoors and the natural world, and all our holidays were spent in reserves and camping all over South Africa. So what a wonderful childhood to have spent camping and on game reserves and all these different destinations in South Africa. Definitely a privilege to spend time outdoors and to, from a young age, have that passion instilled in you. And I think it's super important that we share our love and passion for nature to the younger generation. Make sure that if they love it, they'll obviously want to protect it. So I think it's very important. Shows like this and other shows are very, very important in creating awareness and in creating interest and curiosity about the natural world. So thank you for your comment, Michelle.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. The best driver at Wild Earth, it is me. I believe I'm the best driver. I think so, because I've... There's a part of my job, I say, is just to try and look out for these animals, track them down. I love tracking animals. I love looking for, fresh tracks, and if you can find them, it's just at the moment of accomplishment. If I wasn't a presenter for Wild Earth, I would be the drummer for AC/DC.
There's some ellies that we're approaching now.
The light on her as well is absolutely gorgeous.
So we are going to enjoy the rest of this sunset.
Wow, 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 this is absolutely crazy.
And thank you for joining us. For myself and Cam, we will see you next time.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you will not miss out. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7, and you can even rewind if you have missed out on something. Enjoy the behind-the-scenes video clips as well as fireside chat, or get the early offers on our travel experiences. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
So gracefully. And of course, it's not always easy to hear them when they're approaching you, because they've got this soft sort of cushiony pad on the bottom of their feet, and so that enables them to walk very silently. Perhaps an adaptation to avoid detection from predators. You can see that as that elephant's walking in front here, you can see how that cushion absorbs all the impact, sort of flattens like a pillow when your head rests upon it. And it looks like there's a little structure, a man-made structure over here, maybe to supplement the water in the drier seasons and drier periods. And so it looks like they're more keen to drink the water in this little, for lack of a better word, a little swimming pool. So yeah, I imagine the water would be fresher in there because the water can directly come into that little pool. So, as I've mentioned in previous shows, they're very particular about the water that they drink. They like very fresh water, and the fresher the better. So the water that you find in the waterholes is a bit, it's not quite up to their standard always, but they will drink it if necessary because of all the sediment and the algae and all of that. So they prefer the fresher water, whereas some other animals are not as fussy when it comes to drinking. Lovely to see these majestic creatures. With their beautiful tusks. Of course, their tusks are basically like incisor teeth, which protrude from their mouths, and so it's basically like modified teeth, and it is used for defense against predators, and of course when they're fighting each other, males over a mate, or when a female is protecting its young against predators or other elephants. And they also use it when they're feeding or digging. So it's got many different uses. Some elephants which you find in South Africa, especially in Addo Elephant National Park, many of them don't have tusks, and they've lost that ability to grow tusks. Perhaps there's different theories as to why that is, but some people believe that it's because their food isn't as hardy as it would be in the northern parts, like the savannah, and that because it's a bit of a different vegetation type or biome there in Addo. The vegetation is a lot softer. You get a lot of specked worm, which which is a lot softer, and they don't need to use their tusks to strip bark and to pull out roots and that sort of thing. So perhaps an adaptation for that reason. So Alma S is saying, thank you for all the great info you provide on the show. I appreciate that, Alma. I do my best to present to you all the information that I have and that I can possibly give you, and I hope to give you as much factual and up-to-date information as possible. Okay, so it looks like they've had enough of the little pool. Amazing how quickly things change at the waterhole, and how quickly they're actually able to move. So they can easily cover 30 kilometers or more in a day, depending on necessity. So they move around, perhaps from waterhole to waterhole, or to different areas. Once one area, they've eaten enough in one area, then they move on. And of course they won't eat everything in an area, because they want to leave the vegetation enough opportunity to grow back to full strength. So naturally, animals won't feed on a plant until it's absolutely finished, or there's nothing left of the plant, because of course it wouldn't be in their best interest to eat it to completion and not allow it to grow back. Okay, let's see what's happening here at Safari Hook in Namibia. We've got, looks like 2 elephant bulls in the water, just playing around, it seems. The one to the right is flapping its ears to cool itself off, to dissipate the heat, and using that, getting his trunk wet over there. Oh, you have some warthog as well, some wily warthog in the background. It looks like maybe the one on the right is whispering something in this one to the left's ear. Maybe they're up to no good. Very entertaining to watch. I wonder, we will never know exactly what's going on in their minds, or what they're saying to each other, but one can only imagine. And I often like to pretend or to dub their voices over, and pretend I'm one of them, and think of what they would be saying. Well, we've got a beautiful gemsbok in the background there. Lovely shot. That would be an awesome picture. Catching that gemsbok in between, being framed by the elephant's foreheads. So it doesn't look like this is a very serious scuffle, but it looks like they're just sort of, maybe it's a way of bonding. So many animals, they bond, they strengthen social cohesion through touch, through tactile displays like this. I believe the Maoris, they greet, Maoris from New Zealand, they greet quite similar to these elephants. Their foreheads touch, and they stare into each other's eyes. It's a way of greeting in New Zealand. You can see those warthog busy having a bit of a mud bath there too, much like the elephants, to have that nice protective layer against the sun on their skins. So Jeanette Keane is saying, looks like a bromance. It sure does, Jeanette. Yeah, they, I'm not sure whether they are brothers, or they spoke too soon. But yeah, it could be that they're brothers. Penelope Kenyon is saying such a great screenshot. Maybe referring to that previous image of the gemsbok between the elephant there. Lady Macbeth says elephants are very tactile. That's definitely the case with elephants. They love to touch each other with their trunks and to rub up against one another. And as I mentioned, it's basically just to show their love and appreciation for one another, and also just it helps them to get familiar with each other and to strengthen that bond, so they know who is going to protect them if there's ever a dangerous situation, so they're familiar with each other and reactions and that sort of thing. So we have Wild at Heart that is greeting us from Chile, Hermanas. Thank you, Wild at Heart. It is indeed quite chilly here in the coast, the Western Cape's coastline, especially from Cape Town through to Hermanas. So hopefully we get a bit of warmer weather this week, but right now we are not so fortunate. The Wildlife Lady says, fantastic elephants, having fun in the water, just love them. Thank you, Wildlife Lady. We love to see the Ellies. They are definitely a staple in this show. Don't think there has ever been a live at the waterhole show without an elephant, so always lots to talk about with the elephants. Of course, we have a beautiful gemsbok there in the background, or an oryx, and then some springbok to the left there, also having a drink. And so these oryx are a different, you get at Old Donyo, you get the fringe-eared oryx. So it's a different species of oryx that you get there, or a different subspecies, shall I say. So remember to keep those comments coming through, or the questions. Still like to hear from some of you what inspired your love or passion for nature. So let's have a discussion about it. I really enjoy finding out more about the viewers, because after all, this show wouldn't be possible without you. So we love to hear from you.
We'll see you out on the safari.
It could be a very exciting morning.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Oh, she didn't catch it.
Come on, Tommy!
Watch this, we're about to see a kill.
You can see how close he is from where I am. We are here with a male leopard.
The waterhole. So normally size matters over here, but in the case of the honey badger, for example, they've got a massive heart, the heart of a lion, but they're very small creatures, and that used to be one of my favorite animals, the honey badger. It's because they're absolutely fearless. They don't fear anything. Lions and leopard and all sorts of creatures that are generally very intimidating are very afraid of the honey badger. And they're just incredibly resilient. They have very thick skins, and they're able to withstand lots of stings from bees or bites from venomous snakes. And their diet is also incredibly diverse, so it's just a magnificent creature. Okay, let's see what's happening at Rosie's Pan. They're on Willifant's West. close to Hoedspruit. Okay, so now we're at Rosie's Pan in Willifants West Game Reserve, close to Hoedspruit, and we've got, looks like this elephant has already put a nice thick layer of mud on itself. Maybe looking to eat some grass, or not too sure what that is that it's busy eating, but looks like it's more playing with its food than really eating. It's quite interesting to observe. Sometimes elephants, they can just sort of stand in one spot and do a whole lot of nothing for quite a while, just to play around and just think very deeply about all the heavyweight topics of life. So Roar is saying, growing up, that they watched a lot of David Attenborough documentaries, and it made them appreciate nature more and more. It's definitely, it cannot be disputed, the influence, positive influence that David Attenborough has had on so many people's lives, and a positive influence they've had, or he's had, on the environment, the natural environment, creating awareness and spreading messages of hope. And so, of course, he's excellent at narrating wildlife, so definitely a huge inspiration for all of us. Quite remarkable how hot it gets there on Willifants West Game Reserve. It's very close to Hoedspruit, and as I mentioned before, and it's 37 degrees, a maximum of 37 degrees there today. So you can imagine, and it's not even summer yet, it's still springtime, so just very hot a lot of the time. Yeah, the elephant slowly chewing its food. Another ellie there in the background. See how it uses that trunk how it twists the vegetation, or it wraps its trunk around the vegetation and pulls it out of the ground. Incredibly versatile tools their trunks are. Able to be used as a snorkel, of course, if their bodies are fully submerged, and they're able to break off branches from trees. They're able to lift up to 350 kilograms with their trunks. They're quite remarkable. So Riley is asking me what was the last wildlife study that I read. So it's not so much a study than a discovery that I was busy reading up about crocodiles earlier, and I found it quite interesting that around 2010 they discovered a crocodile of an orange coloration that they found in a cave in Gabon, and they found that this crocodile is much smaller than a Nile crocodile, so it's like a dwarf crocodile, and that they feed on fish and bats that are found in the caves and on insects, and they're not quite sure why they have a different pigmentation, why they have the orange skins, but perhaps it's because of all the exposure to the bat guano, the uric acid, or the urea from the guano and from the urine in that of the bats. Very acidic, so maybe that's why they're orange. But obviously it's not been confirmed yet. It's just speculation about why they are a different color. So maybe you can share with me, Riley, or any of the other viewers, what has been the last thing or interesting thing that you discovered or read about wildlife in Africa.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website. Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature, live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
If you love watching Wild Earth, here's a little tip. You'll gain access to the channel ad-free. You can rewind and rewatch sightings and gain access to our live Tuesday safaris. There's also behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and every safari live episode, whenever it suits you. It's just the best way to connect with nature.
Roaming around your campsites, so you can imagine why you felt that every day might have been the end of your days. So thank you for sharing that, Diane. Naomi van Wyk says, really amazing. Amazing indeed, Naomi. Just fantastic displays of animal behavior for us on this wonderful program. So Riley says, I've been following the European roller movement with BirdLife South Africa. And so I haven't done too much research on that specific project of theirs, but I do know that they've managed to put a tiny little tracking device on these birds to see where exactly they migrate to. So incredibly small chip, which they use then to see the movements of the European rollers, and there's some new and interesting insights into the lives of these rollers, because they migrate all the way from South Africa to places like Somalia and in the east of Africa, and then sometimes to the Middle East. And it's just incredible how far they're able to travel, just these tiny little birds. They're also stunning looking birds, the European rollers, and of course the other rollers that we get in South Africa, like the lilac-breasted roller, or in Afrikaans referred to as a troupband. So like basically it means a wedding band, or directly translates in English to wedding band, because it's believed that the feathers of the lilac-breasted roller were used by the bride in Afrikaans culture as to sort of decorate their wedding dress. So hence the name troupband. So Susan shared a comment. Susan says, long before we had TV, I grew up on a farm, and my dad taught us about the birds and the bees, which included lots of wildlife on the farm. I was young and learnt about births and deaths as part of life, and I'll always remain interested. It was wonderful when we could follow nature on TV. Thank you, Susan. It's a wonderful, wonderful dad that you have, or had, sorry, I'm not too sure. But yeah, I think that's, hopefully you do the same with the younger generations, and try your best to instill that same sort of interest and curiosity that you had when you were younger, and still have. Lady Macbeth says they just completed a course on animal behavior and conservation. So thank you for sharing that, Lady Macbeth. You can never know enough. We're constantly learning about animal behavior and different conservation techniques, and it's invaluable understanding animal behavior, as obviously animals can't talk to us, so we need to be able to read their body language to know when they're in discomfort, or to know when we are in danger of an attack from them. So Wild at Heart says, I love that this hippo just lays in the water there at Rosie's. Barely see it come up for a breath. It is quite odd to see that hippo just chilling there, and they can stay underwater for long periods. So I've read it's up to between 4 to 6 minutes that they can stay underwater before they have to come up breath. And what's quite interesting is that hippos are able to do this movement where they come up for air and go back down while they're sleeping. So it's kind of like an involuntary movement while they're sleeping. They can come up for air and go back down. Quite useful to have. It'd be nice if we could do that while we're swimming in the swimming pool, just fall asleep in the pool and just go down and submerge ourselves and then come back up all while we're still sleeping. Lady Macbeth says, I've also seen some recent research from the Masai Mara, showing that elephants sleep in groups, lying down, for up to 2.5 hours, leaving an older female on watch. So that's a very interesting study that they did. And yeah, it's quite amazing that they slept for 2.5 hours. They don't sleep for very long, elephants, because they need to obviously eat a lot. They can eat up to 300 kilograms in a day, 300 kilograms of plant material, and so they're constantly having to eat in order to maintain that big body of theirs. So much of a 24-hour day is spent eating and walking around and playing in the water or drinking, and only about 3, maybe 4 hours of a 24-hour day is spent actually resting and sleeping. So I think a lot of us probably have a similar sleep pattern where we only sleep for 3 or 4 hours a night, with busy work schedules and just all the admin that we have to do in our day-to-day lives. It just seems never ending. So maybe we're much like elephants in that way, except it would be nice to spend a bit more time swimming and drinking and also just walking around on a beautiful nature reserve. So let's see what's happening at Cirondella. I think there's still some interesting buffalo interactions happening there. So I received an update that there was an interaction between some buffalo and the hippo here to the bottom left of your screens. So it doesn't look like there's much of an interaction happening now, but the hippo being very territorial, especially the males, they would let the buffalo know if they're getting too close. It's actually quite nice of this hippo to tolerate these buffalo. Sometimes they don't allow other animals to approach or drink from the water. They can be very aggressive. So Helga is saying, all this talk on birds, we in Hilton are having an influx of storks at the moment. So that's Hilton in KwaZulu-Natal, in the Midlands. And that's a very interesting observation. Cannot say for sure. I haven't been there in a long while, but I imagine there'd be more of them because there's more of a food source for them. So perhaps there's a lot more frogs out, there's a lot more fish out, and which could be because it's now spring, the frogs are now making themselves or their presence felt, coming out from under the ground, and so perhaps, yeah, because animals would be more prevalent in areas where there's an abundance of food, so maybe that's the reason. I hope that somewhat answers your question, Holger. So Justin Wright is asking whether elephants and buffalo, when they share the same water hole, do they tolerate one another peacefully, or are there subtle signs of competition or hierarchy between them? So often they do tolerate one another, depending on how close they are to one another. If it's a very small water hole like we have at Oldonyo, then it's a lot less likely that the elephant would tolerate the buffalo, but because this is a bigger water hole here at Thorny Bush, and if they're on opposite ends of the water hole, maybe they'd be more likely to tolerate one another. So they don't compete for exactly the same resources. They obviously compete for the water, but for other food, they're not really in competition because the buffalo are mainly grazers and the elephants are able to eat a number of different plants and different types of vegetation. So they're not in direct competition when it comes to food. So they would accept one another. But buffalo can be very unpredictable and aggressive at the best of times, especially the males, or we refer to them as the dugger boys, the older males, which are on their own, which aren't part of a herd. It looks like something has spooked these buffalo. Well, speak of the devil. There's a whole bunch of elephants now showing us exactly who's boss, and you can see these elephants now, because they're a big herd, they're like coming through. You had your chance at the water hole, it's our turn now. So you can see they're chasing the buffalo away, or sometimes it might just be that the buffalo are just very intimidated by these big beasts coming down the hill at them. So some very thirsty elephants, and it's quite funny to see that little elephant, that baby in the foreground there. I'm not quite sure how to use his trunk just yet, and that hippo's also been a bit disturbed by the presence of these elephants. You can see they're vigorously flapping their ears to cool themselves down and splashing lots of water on themselves. It's interesting that they're not going deeper into the water. Maybe they're respectful of the hippo. Maybe the hippo has told them off in the past. but now looks like they're sticking to the more shallower parts of the waterhole. It's lovely to see two of the big five in one shot over here. Lovely herd of buffalo and of course herd of elephants. Lots and lots of activity here. Those buffalo, some of them are sticking to the left of the waterhole there. Diane is saying the tiny one is so cute. Very, very cute. They're just probably one of the most adorable little animals, the elephants when they're babies. They're still very unsure of themselves, not quite sure how to use their little trunks, and still figuring out how to balance their big bodies. Very entertaining to watch indeed. And the hippo on the left is like, I cannot look. Just tell me when they're away. Wake me up when September ends. Computer Enthusiast says, good day, Wild Africa Explorers. Good day to you too, Computer Enthusiast. A very interesting name that you have there. And yeah, Wild Africa Explorers we are indeed. Although we are enjoying wild Africa from the comforts of our homes. Helga says, one chomp from Mr. Hippo and that cutie elephant is no more. So that hippo would be very brave to chomp at that little elephant. But indeed, if it did get too close to the hippo has an incredibly powerful bite, which has been able to break crocodile spines. And but if anything were to happen to that baby elephant, the females are incredibly protective over their young. As you can imagine, if you were pregnant for 22 months, you would also be very protective over your baby. So they would definitely react if something was happening to the baby, and they would probably stab the hippo with their tusks or trample the hippo, but I don't think the hippo would stand a chance against that herd.
This is an unbelievable afternoon.
I get to wake up every morning and go out there and look for cats. I get to create my everyday safari for myself. I grew up in the sort of central eastern suburbs of Johannesburg, fully qualified trails guide and a fully qualified nature conservationist. I love the wild places. I love being in the wilderness. It's probably one of the best jobs I've ever had and probably ever could have.
Ah, the bush, full of beauty, wonder, and absolute chaos. And now, all that madness has its own show. It's called a Wild Bush Week. The countdown of the most outrageous, heart-stopping, and sometimes downright ridiculous wildlife moments of the week. Lions throwing their weight around. Hyenas gate-crashing the buffet. Leopards doing, well, leopardy things. Each week, it's a fresh reel of safari gold. A mix of drama.
She's just got an impala, everybody.
Danger, and a healthy dose of laughter. So, if you fancy a highlight show with bite, and I don't mean just the animals, tune in to a Wild Bush Week. You bring the tea, and we'll bring the tusks, tails, and teeth.
The back is just telling the buffalo, it's the last time I'll tell you, no coming close to me. That's very interesting behavior by that very grumpy elephant in the background. Obviously, something has upset him. And he's maybe just showing his dominance. He's saying, look, I can also go in the water. It's not your water hole. It's ours. We're just letting you drink from it. Maybe he didn't like something that the hippo had said to him earlier. So please keep those comments and questions coming. There's plenty to talk about, of course, but it always makes it a lot more interesting and fun when it's an interactive experience. So I was referring to the Duggar boys earlier, which are those old buffalo bulls. And so they're called Duggar boys because of they frequent waterholes and they often are mud wallowing. And so they've got a layer of mud on their skins all the time because as they get older, their fur or their hair starts to come off, and so they require a lot more mud to protect their skins. And so Duggar is actually a Zulu word for mud or cement, and hence the name Duggar boys. And they're infamous for their temperament, or lack thereof. They can be very aggressive, and because they don't have the herd to protect them, so they have to compensate by being more aggressive so that no predators take any chances with them. So let's see what's happening at Meno Aquena, as the buffalo are now just relaxing at this hole. And we've got another elephant and a younger elephant on the Botete River in Botswana. Also a very warm day, very warm, 37 degrees Celsius, very close to Maun, close to Menokwena. You can see these elephants are busy trying to loosen the mud over there to make it easier to grip with their trunks so that they can throw it on their bodies. So Nelly is asking, what is my animal wish list? And so I've been incredibly privileged as a guide to have seen so many different things and so many interesting sightings. And so I've seen pangolin before in the wild, I've seen aardvark, I've seen a serval before, I've seen caracals. So I've been very, very fortunate in my time to have lots of different sightings. But of course, I've spent a lot of time in the bush. But on my wish list, sure, I would have to think about that. But I probably have a bit more of a bird wish list than a mammal wish list. But I would definitely like to see a pangolin again in the wild, and the sighting that I had wasn't a very good one. So, and of course the pangolins are one of the most trafficked mammal species in the world. So they are unfortunately captured or poached for their scales, which is used in traditional medicines and as ornaments. And so unfortunately they're being poached at an exponential rate and an unsustainable rate. So it's very important that we create awareness for the poor pangolins and that we do our best to protect them.
For years we've shared virtual wildlife. Now let's experience it for real. I'm Lauren Arthur and I'd love to show you my amazing home here in the Greater Kruger of South Africa. This 5-night journey is an exclusive connection to my piece of untamed Africa. I live here in these gorgeous landscapes surrounded by epic wildlife. The wild is calling, so come and join me.
And that's it for this morning's drive. He's just got an impala, everybody.
And we're going to be heading out and seeing what animals we can find.
Out here, every moment counts. As a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7 and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Saw bite if they are brought to that point where they need to defend themselves or fight for a female. Okay, let's see what's happening at Tembe. I think there's something interesting happening over there for us. Okay, looks like there's quite a few different species here in northern KwaZulu-Natal. The lovely Tembe Elephant Park. You can see there's lots of vegetation here. Maybe a lot more than some of our other locations, because the northern KwaZulu-Natal receives rainfall throughout the year, and so it never gets completely dry over here. They do have drier periods, but it's an annual rainfall in northern KZN, so they get rainfall throughout the year. There you can see we've got some impala in the foreground here, and then lots of elephants. And then I think we saw looked like a nyala in the background over there earlier. I don't have a visual of it now. So Nelly is asking a very interesting question. Why are there so many different landscapes in South Africa? And well, there's a lot of underlying geology in South Africa. So there's lots of different regions with different rock types, and because of the tectonic movement, the movements of the tectonic plates, you have some mountain ranges over here, and so yeah, of course the underlying rocks or the underlying geology plays a very important role in soil formation, and so that soil will determine the type of plants that can grow there, and so that would result in the way the landscape looks. So, and it's quite interesting. In South Africa we have the Magaliesberg mountain range, which is believed to be the oldest mountain range in the world. So Magaliesberg, which is located along, well, close to, sort of in the northwestern part of or northwest of Gauteng, shall I say. So yeah, Nelly, I hope that answers your question. You could go into a lot more detail about the geology and that, but I unfortunately don't know too much about the geology, but I know more about the animals and about the soil than I do about the different rock types. See how that elephant is using his trunk as a straw, sucking water into their trunk. They can keep 6 liters of water at a time or more in their trunks, and then they release that water into their mouths. And you can see how this elephant to the left is wagging its tail to deter the flies which would be attracted to the feces on the buns. So let's keep those comments rolling in, or the questions. If you have any interesting questions, we'd like to hear them. So Tembe is actually quite an interesting reserve, or game reserve, as it's one of the first, South Africa's first community-owned reserves. So the community makes decisions in terms of the management and that of the reserve, and then they reap many rewards. They can benefit from the natural resources on the reserve. So very interesting. And I was reading up about it earlier. It's about 30,000 hectares, which is huge. I mean, if you think 1 hectare is the size of a football field, maybe 100 meters, or roughly that size, 100 meters by 100 meters, then you can just imagine 30,000 rugby fields or football fields is just huge. And so it's quite a task to manage such a big reserve. The reserve that I used to work on was only about 2,000 to 3,000 hectares. So, and that was a huge task on its own. So I can only imagine the massive reserve management team that they must have at Tembe in order to oversee all the wildlife and the vegetation and everything there. So Zanelli is saying that they love watching the elephants, and it is just interesting watching them, although sometimes they can stand and just do a whole lot of nothing, just swinging their trunks around or flapping their ears about, but most of the time it's very interesting watching them because they're always active, almost always. You've got some impala there in the background. In Afrikaans, we refer to them as a rooibok because of the reddish hue on their coats, their reddish brown coats. Incredibly resilient animals, impala are. They're very good at grooming one another and themselves. So they've got their lower teeth, which they use as like a comb, and they comb through the hairs all the parasites and all the dirt in their coats. And they also groom one another, which we call allo grooming. And so they spend a lot of time grooming one another. And so the interesting thing when the impala are rutting is that the males don't have as much time to groom themselves, and they lose a lot of their condition because there's more parasites, there's more ticks on their bodies, and so they're spending more time defending their territories or trying to herd females into their territory, that they neglect their grooming responsibilities. So they become very weak during that time when there's lots of ticks on their bodies. And of course ticks are blood-sucking parasites, so the more blood the impala loses, the weaker it becomes. And then of course they spread a lot of diseases like tick bite fever, which is awful. If any of you have ever had it, I'm sorry. I've also had it, and it can be very unpleasant. You're man down for quite some time. So Munyaradzi from Zimbabwe says, I love wildlife. Thank you for bringing it close to us. I'm watching it in the comfort of my home. Hope you are comfortable out there. Nevertheless, thank you. So thank you, Munyaradzi. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. But it's lovely that you're tuning in from Zimbabwe. And yeah, it's just so lovely to have this wildlife just in the comfort of our own homes. And of course, it's such a unique opportunity to observe animal behavior. If you're interested in animal behavior, I don't think there's a better place to view it than right here on Wild Earth. As you're seeing the animals act out in real time, and I think most of them are unaware of the camera, so there's not that humans influencing their behavior. So it's quite unique in that sense that when you're on game drive, you might influence their behavior when they know you're there, or if you get too close to the animals, they might behave a bit differently. So this is very special to be able to view them and see their behavior without disturbing them too much. Okay, let's see what's happening at Camelthorn in Botswana. See if there's some interesting activity. Wowee. That's quite a sight to behold. Incredible. You see that elephant chasing the zebra up the hill there. I don't know why that elephant is being so rude. But we must have hundreds of zebra over here. And you can see, seems like there's water flowing out of the ground where these elephants are huddled together, trying to get the fresh water coming out of the ground. So Kelly is asking, why do they make so much noise? So they're communicating with one another. They are much like humans do. You know, we are just constantly talking, saying or say. Maybe they're communicating, like if they happen to get too close to one another, or they will make it aware. Like there's a couple in the middle there where you can see the one is getting a bit bothered by the other zebra getting too close to it. So they communicate for a number of different reasons. Also, if there's any danger, they will alarm one another of any danger, or approaching danger, much like if the elephant starts charging them and perhaps one of them or a few of them are drinking water, then at least through the alarm calls they know to move before the elephant gets too close. Okay, let's go to Old Donyo. Let's see if maybe we've got interesting developments happening over there. Okay, so got a lot more elephants than we normally see at Old Donyo. And this one is showing his big beautiful bottom to us in the foreground. Maybe you heard me. I'm complimenting you, Mr. Elephant.
This unfolds in front of you.
Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh. Whoa. This is action-packed.
Every week, the wilderness delivers.
And that's why we're here.
Drama, chaos, crimes, humour. All moments you'll never forget. We've counted them down, argued about them, and finally picked the very best. From rare sightings to classic bush showdowns, this is nature's weekly highlight reel. Sharp facts, bad jokes, and the wildest top 5 you'll see this side of the savannah. It's not just a show, it's a wild bush week.
Seeing as there's not too much happening over here at Aldonio, you've seen quite a few elephants already on the show. Let's link to Founders. Let's see what's happening at Founders Lodge, close to Iberga, or the old Port Elizabeth. Okay, so we've got, wow, such a beautiful white rhino drinking water. Oh, that's so lovely to see. These poor animals are being persecuted for their horn, which is basically made up of the same substance as our fingernails. So it's made up of keratin, and so these poor creatures are being killed at a exponential rate for their majestic horns. And unfortunately, it's believed in some countries in Southeast Asia that this horn has medicinal value, medicinal properties, although it's never been scientifically proven, but yet it is still being consumed by many people. And the horn can fetch up to 600,000 rand just for a single horn, so, or even more. I think that's probably per kilogram, but it's incredibly valuable, worth more than gold or diamonds on the black market, and it's very sad, and hence why I was discussing how important it is for reserve management to protect the location of these beautiful beasts. And so that's, of course, the rhino horn being so valuable, one of the reasons why we have so much poaching of them. On a lot of reserves, especially around the Kruger National Park, there's a lot of poorer communities, and many households don't have an income, or they maybe get a small grant each month from the government, but which isn't enough to sustain them. And so if a poaching syndicate approaches them with a big sum of money in order to poach a rhino, then they would jump at the opportunity. So unfortunately, they also, the poachers, I think at the end of the day, they get a very small cut of the worth of the rhino horn. I think they only end up getting maybe 20,000, or I'm not sure of the exact figures. I've never spoken to a poacher myself, but it's believed through research that they receive much less than what the horn is actually worth. So it's very unfortunate, but I believe that there would be very good security here on Mantis Founders Lodge, and must be one of the main attractions is the majestic white rhino. So Diana's asking, how do you tell, just looking at a rhino, whether it's a white or a black rhino? And so One of the easiest ways to tell is by looking at their mouths. So the white rhino has a much wider mouth than the black rhino. So you can see there, it's displaying its mouth for us. A nice wide mouth in order to eat lots of grass, which is its preferred vegetation type which it eats. And so the black rhino has a much narrower lip or much narrower mouth, which it uses to browse. So it eats mostly from trees. And so it's believed that because the name isn't very descriptive of what they look like, because the white rhino isn't actually white. They're more or less the same color, the white and the black rhino, but the difference is believed to have come from a corruption of an Afrikaans word or Old Dutch word, which means wide, weit. And so it's believed that maybe the English settlers then heard these rhinos being described as white rhinos instead of weit, and so the name just stuck. And unfortunately we've now lost the visual of these.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
Greatest wildlife spectacle on planet Earth. We'll see you there.
Out here, every wild moment matters, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel, ad-free 24/7, where you can even rewind and watch something again. Get access to behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and access to early travel offers. It is the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Found in thicker vegetation, in areas where there's a lot more trees because of their browsing habits. So if you look at a female with its young, the female tend to walk in the front with the black rhino, whereas with the white rhino, the babies will walk either side by side with the mothers or behind them. So Mandega is asking why the elephants have different shades of grey, and this is due to them putting mud on their bodies in order to protect themselves against parasites and against the sun, and also to cool themselves off. So the different shades would be dependent on the mud or the soil that you find in that area. Some areas have redder soils, others have darker, grayer soils, and so it's all dependent on the soil and the mud that you find in an area, which will determine what the elephant's sort of grey shade will look like. And so you can see it's got quite a bluish, greyish hue, this elephant, due to the mud that's found there. Oh, it looks like we've got some kudu to our right, to the right of our screen. You can see some males. There's 3 males. Oh, there's more males, sorry. Aren't they just beautiful? They're my favorites. Look at those impressive horns. So they say you can sort of gauge the age of a kudu by looking at the spirals on the horn. So they say it takes about 3 years for one spiral to occur. So you can see the ones with more than 2 spirals are the mature kudu males, kudu bulls. So you can see there's a couple of younger bulls amongst those males at the back there. And then of course the females don't have horns. So that's a sure way of telling the male and the female apart. And that's what we refer to as sexual dimorphism, where you have the male and the female of the same species looking very different. Lots of activity here at Tau Game Lodge. Okay, I think let's wrap up now. It's been lovely being on the show today. I've thoroughly enjoyed all the comments and the questions coming through. I'm very grateful for all the comments and questions, and from the Wild Earth team, very happy to have had you here, and we're looking forward to having you again with us tomorrow. And I hope you have a lovely Tuesday afternoon. I'll see you next time.